Hey, welcome back to Sports Hop. It's on and popping. It's your boy Mack B, back at it, back in the building. Episode 48. I'm so excited, and make sure you hit that subscribe button. We appreciate the love, everybody supporting Sports Hop Media and your boy Mack B. I'm in the building, feeling great. Solomon's in the building. How you doing, man?
I'm great, man. You look good over there.
Hey, man, I'm chilling like a popsicle player. It's all good. We're going to dive right in. We got a lot to cover. We're going to land in Boulder, Colorado. Shout out to Coach Prime and the Colorado Buffaloes. Won their third straight game against Texas Tech. Went down to Texas and handled business. Flying tortillas and all over the field. Travis Hunter picking him up off the turf and stuffing him in his uniform and then autographing one. I think that was Shedeur or Travis did that. So the Buffs got it done. Their third straight win. They're 7-2 overall for the year. This is the talk of college football because there's no other coach out there that's done a faster turnaround and more impactful than Coach Prime. I don't care what anybody has to say. He's making history. He's proven all the doubters wrong. Everybody that's been sipping haterade, you might as well go ahead and dump it out or just keep chugging because the man's going to continue to ascend, continue to elevate the program. They're currently 5-1 in the Big 12. They're in second place, right behind BYU. Colorado plays Utah this weekend in Boulder. I believe they're going to win that football game. Then they got to go on the road. That's a tough game against Kansas and the Jayhawks. And they close out the year November 29th against Oklahoma State back in Boulder. So if the Buffs win it outright, okay, they end up 10-2, and then they go to the Big 12 championship. More than likely they would play BYU, the Cougars. If they beat BYU, Colorado is headed for the college football playoff. So get your popcorn and your soda pop ready, or your bottle of hen, or whatever you drinking and sipping, because it's going to be on and popping. I think Coach Prime and the Buffaloes are going to get it done. They've got all the momentum. Defensively, they're playing much better. They're creating a lot of turnovers. The offensive line has definitely grown throughout the season. They're protecting Shedeur much better. He's balling out. He should definitely be a Heisman Trophy candidate. Travis Hunter more than likely is going to win the Heisman if he continues to play at the level that he's playing, averaging about 130 snaps a game, playing on both sides of the football. Travis, what you sipping, man? What is your diet? Please let us know. Man, I want to have the energy that you have to get it done. There's never been an athlete doing it at that level, especially in recent times. So I love what you're building, Coach Prime in Boulder. I love what the Buffaloes program is doing in terms of ascending. And speaking of that, if Coach Prime makes this happen and Colorado goes to the college football playoffs, anything can happen, because I think roster-wise, they can play with any other team in the country. I know there's other people out there that beg to differ, but trust me, I think Colorado is a threat. They're viable here, and I like their chances. So they were predicted to finish 11th in their own conference last year. Now, I thought going into this year that Coach Prime would lead Colorado and they would be bowl eligible, which they already are. But I never saw this coming, where they could actually win the Big 12 and actually go to the college football playoff. That can happen, and I believe it's going to happen. So we'll wait and see. We still got 3 games to go. It'll be interesting. But there's also rumblings around the sports world that, Shedeur Sanders is going to be eligible for the draft next year in 2025. The Raiders are definitely highly interested in Shedeur. They sent him some custom-made cleats, the Thank God cleats. I love what he posted on social media when he got those. That was a nice little thought from the Raiders, right? But also, let's not forget about the Cowboys, who are basically a dumpster fire in Big D. Jerry Jones, he may not say it publicly, but he doesn't like losing. One thing he does love is he loves the bag. Cowboys are the most valued franchise in all of sports, and he loves the attention. Well, speaking of attention, the best guy to get attention in Dallas and turn that dumpster fire around is Coach Prime. Dion did play for Jerry years ago, won a title with the Cowboys, and I think Jerry needs to think about turning over a new leaf here in Dallas, giving the franchise to somebody, handing over the keys to a coach who can basically come in, control that locker room. If he was to go to Dallas and have his son there, that would be a hell of a story in the NFL, and it would bring some much-needed excitement to Dallas because they've been in the basement. It's been a terrible year down in Big D, and the Cowboys aren't going anywhere. They'll be lucky if they win maybe 5 or 6 games this year, so they're not going to make the playoffs. They could always trade up in the draft and try to get Shedeur Sanders next year. If they do, don't be surprised if Jerry tries to recruit Coach Prime, get him out of Boulder and back in Dallas, Texas. That will be very interesting. I know that Coach Prime is loyal to that Colorado program. They're the first major college institution to give him a chance, and he definitely has proved worthy of his stature and what he's able to deliver. So I hope Coach Prime stays in Boulder. Those kids love him up there. He's changing the culture up in Boulder. He's making history, but we'll see how it plays out. What are your thoughts, Solomon, on this Colorado-Buffalo situation? Not only on their start at 7-2, surprising many in college football, but also possibly going to the college football playoffs. And will Coach Prime still be in Boulder next year, assuming Shedeur gets drafted by the Raiders or the Cowboys? Because, there's also a Raider connection there with Tom Brady, who just recently bought 5% minority ownership into the Raider franchise. Brady and Coach Prime are really close, and Brady and Shedeur text all the time. So there's already a connection with the Raiders. There's a connection with the Cowboys. What are you thinking here, not only with Colorado this year, but what may happen next year? Will Deion depart?
I don't think Deion will depart. I think Deion's at the point in his life and in his career where he's thinking about his legacy. I think what he did at Jackson State was unprecedented. I don't think anyone expected that level of competition from that team, that level of success from what he brought to that team. And as you can see, when he left, it went back to where it was. I mean, you wish it would have been able to sustain something, but it did show that he did take the power. Then, of course, he took half the team with him too. But the fact is, at this level, he has shown that he can continue to be a winner. And I think, with college football, it's sort of a sustained thing that you have to continue to do. So, while his son may move on, while Travis Hunter may move on, I think he will stay. Now, with regard to Shedeur Sanders going to the Cowboys, I think that'd be wishful thinking for a lot of people. But, you've got quite a few teams out there that are looking for a quarterback. I mean, you've got, we've got, let's see,
the Giants.
The Giants are one of them here.
The Saints, possibly.
The Saints. We've got potentially the Raiders, obviously.
Carolina.
You mentioned the Raiders. And the Browns. And so these are teams that would definitely be in the running to get him there. I think, with Deion's influence, I think, he'll end up in a good space, a space where we'll have a decent offensive line and some good wide receivers. Hopefully they don't throw him someplace where he's running for his life every play.
Right. Well, shout out to Shedeur, Travis Hunter. Both of them are Heisman candidates in my book. I think Hunter should win it if he stays healthy. But Coach Prime, we love what you're doing here at Sports Hop. Keep blessing those kids. Keep guiding and growing and doing what you're doing, making history. We love every part of it, and we're glad that we're here to witness greatness. Speaking of greatness, we're going to move on, and we're going to hop to the Yay area. Shout out to 40 Water, the big homie. His Golden State Warriors got it done last night. They knock off the Dallas Mavericks and spoil the return of Klay back to the Bay, right? Klay Thompson, who was disgruntled last year and ended up bouncing out of the Bay, who now has moved on with the Dallas Mavericks. Klay had a decent game. He hit 6 threes. He had 22 points, but the Mavs came up short, particularly late in the fourth quarter. Mr. GOAT himself, Steph Curry, proved why he is the man, and he is one of the greatest shooters ever to play basketball. 12 points in the last 3 minutes of the game, made some huge shots at key moments, was very emotional after the final horn, and was pumping his chest and reminding everybody, Dub Nation is here to stay. We ain't going anywhere. This is my house. So I love the competitive nature of the game. I love what I saw. It was a big moment for Klay getting honored. Everybody had the little captain sailor hats on. It was pretty dope out there in Frisco at the Chase Center. So big time shout outs to the Warriors, to the Mavs. Speaking of the Warriors, Key acquisitions, they changed the roster this year. They brought in Buddy Hield. They got Anthony Melton in there, who's very athletic under the rim. He can also shoot from the outside. Hield is a great replacement for Klay Thompson. He can nail a three ball as well. And you got Kyle Anderson, who can also play and has some veteran leadership in that locker room. So I like what the Warriors are doing. I like the roster. Kuminga's definitely going to blossom before our very eyes. I hope that Wiggins can stay healthy. You still got Kevon Looney, and you got Steph, Draymond Green. I think the Warriors are going to be a threat in the West, which is loaded more than a baked potato at Wendy's, right? So I think the Warriors, when it's all said and done, going into the playoffs next year, I think they're going to have at least a number 3 or number 4 seed. I think they're going to surprise a lot of teams, and I think Golden State will definitely be viable. I definitely think they'll at least make it to the second round of the playoffs, and they may go further than that, provided they stay healthy. So what are your thoughts on last night's competitive matchup against the Mavs? Play back to the Bay for the first time. Steph got it done and proved why he's the greatest shooter ever lived, whoever created with a basketball. What are your thoughts on that and the Golden State victory, but also the Warriors moving forward in the future for this season? What are you thinking?
Well, I think the game ended the way every Warriors fan wanted it to end. They wanted Klay Thompson to have a good game, and they wanted the Warriors to win.
Yep.
So, it's like Michael Jordan used to say when he was with the Wizards, everybody will see their team win and have me score 50, right? So, yeah, I think it ended up that way. I'm happy for Klay Thompson. I'm happy that he had a good game. He didn't have nerves. He got out there. He hit his threes. He put his team in a position to win. They just weren't able to pull it out. I think he had a last-second shot that sort of clanked out. But it's good for Dallas. Now, that being said, I think this is going to be a rivalry going forward. You look at these two teams and look at their rosters. I mean, they're loaded with talent.
Kyrie Irving.
And and then the Warriors, of course, doing something very interesting this year and playing more players. I mean, they have an average of 10 players who play more than 10 minutes any given night. And a lot of their firepower coming from new names, Trace Jackson Davis, Anthony Melton, like you mentioned, Jonathan Kuminga, Brad Podziemski, Moses Moody, and Buddy Hield. I feel like we're not going to get much more out of Andrew Wiggins. I think his days of 20 points a game are over. You may get that every now and then, but Draymond Green is just proven to be an Iron Man.
He's a beast defensively.
He's out there looking like an old man, but he is just in your face, on the ball all the time, and he still scores his points. I think he was a plus 20 last night.
Yeah, he's shooting the 3-ball well.
11 points. I mean, he was 50% from 3. Did a great job. That said, the Warriors right now sit at the top of the NBA Western Conference, ahead of the Suns, Thunder, Nuggets, Rockets. I do feel like, like you said, they may end up top 3. Just because I don't see the Rockets doing anything. I actually see the Lakers moving up, hopefully. But
shout out to LA.
Suns, Thunder will be there. I think the Warriors will be there too.
Yeah, if the Lakers can stay healthy, that's the key factor with Anthony Davis. LeBron is still playing top 10 in the league, at 40 years of age.
Yeah.
He's still balling out. I like what they're doing. They need to get some help off the bench and more contributions off the bench in LA, but still a long season to go. We'll see how it plays out. We're going to move on to Big D, Dallas, Texas. November 15th, right around the corner, we got the huge fight. We got Jake Paul versus Mike Tyson. The tale of two different fighters, right? Very interesting because the age gap is what concerns me more than anything. We got a 31-year age difference. Jake Paul's coming into this fight 27 years of age. Mike Tyson, the former undisputed champion of the world, is 58 years of age. He's been training hard lately, looking good on the gram and all the little clips we're seeing online. So Tyson definitely still has some power. I am somewhat concerned, though, because of the age difference. It's going to be very, very hard, I think, conditioning-wise, if this fight goes into the later rounds. Speaking of rounds, it's only an 8-round bout. Scheduled for 8 rounds. They're 2-minute rounds instead of the typical 3 minutes. They're using 14-ounce gloves instead of 10. Both fighters weighed in at 225. I think the reach advantage goes to Jake Paul. He's a little bit taller as well at 6'1". Tyson is 5'10". So Who do I like to win the fight? I think the fight goes into later rounds, deeper into the fight. The advantage goes to Jake Paul because he's 31 years younger. His conditioning is probably going to be a lot better. But it doesn't mean that Jake Paul can't get into trouble early on. Tyson may sneak in a left hook or an uppercut. I think that one of these guys is going to get knocked down. There is a potential possibility of a knockout. I hope we don't see a knockout, but I do think one of these guys, if not both of them, is going to get knocked down. So it's going to be interesting to see Jake Paul, who's a YouTube guy and a promotional genius. I'm not mad at him. You know, you get the bag, you make it happen. He's going to make $40 million on the fight. Tyson's going to grab $20 million. That's a whole lot of lettuce on that sandwich, right? That's extra lettuce, right? So I'm not mad at either one of these guys for getting their money and getting the bag. But more than anything, I hope that nobody gets hurt. So I hope that it's an entertaining fight. I will be watching exclusively on Netflix, by the way, which has never been done. So I love the promotional aspect of this. Fighting at AT&T Stadium in Texas, it's just going to be an epic event, right? Everybody's anticipating to watch this, including myself. So Jake Paul currently is the favorite. I think he's at minus 230 or 235 to win the fight outright. I personally have no interest in betting on the fight, but I do think that Jake Paul, if the fight goes past 4 or 5 rounds, I think he has the advantage. I think he'll win the fight. If this fight can stay between 3 to 4 rounds and Tyson sneaks in a left hook or an uppercut, I think Tyson has enough power where he could potentially knock him down and knock him out. So we're going to see how it plays out. That's my thoughts. Solomon, what are you thinking here with this epic matchup with Jake Paul and Mike Tyson and the 31-year age gap? Because I think that's really, really concerning. I hope and pray none of these guys get seriously hurt.
Yeah, I'm not worried about the age gap so much. I feel like with the concessions they've made with the rules, they've taken care of that. You know, with the 2-minute rounds and the heavier gloves to promote safety. Those obviously go in Mike Tyson's favor.
Yeah.
So, but that being said, Mike Tyson is still a very powerful man. If you look at the way that he's practiced, if you look at all the tape they've got on him, sparring and everything, he is looking to get inside. He's looking to have a knockdown, drag out fight where he's right up close. If he's able to accomplish that in the first couple of rounds, there is a good chance he could knock Jake Paul out, just because the power is there, the experience is there, and those reactions and reflexes, you don't lose that stuff. You know what I mean? And so
facts.
If he's able to maintain, think about it. Boxers are some of the best athletes in the world. And so you don't lose a ton of that even as you get older. That being said, if the fight is able to go longer, if Jake Paul's able to use his length to sort of, keep Tyson off of him, the fights can go into longer rounds. And then that's where Tyson runs into the danger of sort of losing wind, because that's where age takes a factor. And in a situation like that, Jake Paul could pull it out. But either way, I think it's going to be a great fight. I think Tyson's going to just enjoy being back in the ring. I think Jake Paul looks at it like, you know what, I'm one of the few people that has the ability to fight a legend, and win or lose, he's gonna enjoy it. It's not gonna hurt his career at all.
Well, I'm looking forward to it. We'll see how it plays out. That's coming up this Friday, November 15th. Speaking of coming back, let's talk about the return of Tua Tagovailoa in the Dolphins. Tua getting it done on Monday Night Football. The Dolphins went in the SoFi Stadium and beat the Rams 23-15. Tua not only played well Monday night, but the previous game against the Bills, where the Dolphins came up a little short and lost a tough game to Buffalo on the road. I really like what Tua's doing. I like his courage, his passion for the game. He has no fear. He's out there balling. And I do like what he's doing. He's stretching the field. The Dolphins' offense has been reborn. He's finding guys like Waddle, Tyreek Hill down the field, making plays. I like what Miami's doing, running the football. And I also like the play action component. Tua's really good about reading the line of scrimmage, throwing the ball in tight windows. And he's also deceptively quick with his feet. He can definitely make some plays, particularly on third down, which he did in that Monday night encounter with the Rams, and got it done. So shout out to the Dolphins. They're 3-6. It doesn't look sexy on paper, right? But slow your roll, pump the brakes. There's still 8 games left to play, and Miami has one of the easiest schedules remaining. So I would not be surprised if Miami can run the table. I don't think they'll win every game, but I think they can go 6-2. If they go 6-2, they end up 9-8, maybe 10-7. They might be able to sneak in as a wild card. It just depends on what the other teams do in the AFC. But I do like what Tua is doing. He came back. He said in a recent interview he had no doubts in his mind that he was going to come back and play. Retirement was not an option for him. He's been playing the game of football, I believe, since he was 4 years of age. So I love his passion. I love his courage. And Tua is a baller. He's top 10 in the league in my book in terms of quarterback play. The man knows what he's doing. He can throw the football down the field. He's got a lot of accuracy and velocity on the ball. And I think Miami has some momentum. We'll see how it plays out. I know that's your favorite squad. So, Solomon, talk to me. Let me know your thoughts on the Dolphins getting the dub on Monday night over the Rams and moving forward. Do you think they got a shot at the playoffs?
I would love to see it. I don't think it's going to happen. I think there are too many tough teams in the AFC. And, unlike hockey, a lot of teams don't go to the playoffs, right? So you get very few teams. That being said, if you look at Tua's play, he has proven that he is a legit quarterback, even in the last 2 games. I mean, he was 20 of 28, and game before that, 25 of 28. I mean, last 3 games, over 71%, completion percentage. And so obviously a lot of them are short passes, but it also shows his accuracy and his ability to move the ball, get first downs, get the ball down the field. Now, hopefully, they told him on the sidelines, look, if you need to scramble, throw the ball out of bounds. If you need to run, you slide. I hope they penalize him if he tries to go head first. And you hope some defenders somewhere.
He did that on a tackle, attempted tackle when the guy picked him off.
And so much of that is probably instinctual that he doesn't think about it.
Yeah.
But this is where you see whole stadiums holding their breath, things like that. You know what I mean? So hopefully he will stay healthy. But I don't see the Dolphins doing much this year. I think it's a little too late. But I hope they finish the season strong.
Shout out to the Dolphins in South Beach, Miami, Florida. Good luck the rest of the way. We're going to move on, and we're going to go to Detroit, Michigan, by way of Houston, of course, because the Detroit Lions on Sunday Night Football and Jared Goff, they really stuck up the joint in the first half, turning the ball over. Goff had 5 interceptions in one game. So much for him still being in the MVP race. I don't think he really cares about that. I think Detroit has bigger plans, particularly in February in New Orleans. But if they play like that against a stronger opponent, they're not going to get so lucky at the end and win the football game. But I do like their composure. I love what Dan Campbell is doing as a head coach, basically revitalizing the troops. They came out in the second half and looked like a totally different team. They had more swagger. They had more confidence. They were able to move the football. Still had a few turnovers, which is concerning. But I do love what the Lions are doing, not just from last year, but coming into this year. Dan Campbell is definitely the right fit. He's the right coach, not only for the team. He just epitomizes the city of Detroit. Motown, the Steel City, just that toughness and that just no-nonsense attitude to just get it done by any means necessary. So including biting off kneecaps, like he said in that press conference a few years back. So at the end of the day, shout out to the Lions. They're going to win the NFC North. They're going to handle their business. I think Detroit is in a good position here, but I also think that they're overlooking the running game. You got Jahmyr Gibbs and you got David Montgomery, the two-headed monster in the backfield. I mean, these guys last year, both of them rushed for 1,000 yards apiece.
It's amazing.
So that's amazing. That doesn't happen a lot in the NFL. Last year, particularly in the NFC Championship game when they were in the Yay area playing the Niners, they had 148 yards rushing in the first half. Detroit did. Second half, they abandoned the run. They only ran the ball 8 times and ended up losing the game to the 49ers. So I think they need to focus more on the running game with Montgomery and Gibbs. If you do that and you're successful, you open up play action for Jared Goff, who can't really move around a lot, right? He looked in panic mode a lot, particularly in the first half against the Texans. So I think it will open up play action. He'll be able to stretch the field. I think he'll be able to make more plays down the field if you set up the running game. So I think Detroit's a great team. Certainly Dan Campbell knows a hell of a lot more about coaching than I do. But just from the outside looking in, when you got two great generational running backs, I think you need to utilize those guys more because they can make it happen. So we'll see what happens the rest of the way. Detroit came back and won that football game. Bates got it done, their field goal kicker, winning that kick at the horn. And they got a huge win down there in Houston. What are your thoughts about the Lions not only winning that game after being down, I believe, 23-7 and coming all the way back? Not only about the Lions, but what are your thoughts about them and their playoff chances moving forward?
Yeah, the funny thing is,
you used to live in Detroit, right?
Yeah, I did used to live in Detroit.
You know that city.
And yeah, I was there when the teams weren't that good or when they would look good and then they'd do some boneheaded mistakes and would go, oh, there's our team.
Yeah.
You know? But it's funny, it just reminds me of Brett Favre, how he threw so many interceptions, but people don't remember that. They remember him for being a great quarterback. Jared Goff had a bad game, right? But here's the thing that's different now. This team is used to winning, right? This team is used to winning.
Yeah.
And when a team is used to winning like that, they find ways to win. Even when a player is not having a great game, when somebody's hurt, when things just aren't going that well, they find ways to win. And I think they showed their mettle in winning that game. I don't necessarily look at it as a bad mark against Jared Goff. And I think even he probably just shrugs it off and went, okay, well, you know what? We got the next game coming up. The Lions are legit, right? So I don't think anybody's denying that. If you look at the NFC division leaders, they are sitting atop everything. They're locked to make the playoffs, of course. So they're looking to get home field advantage throughout. They've got some competition. I mean, you've got the Vikings. I don't know what the Packers are going to do. I know your beloved 49ers are on the way up as well. And I'm not sold on the Commanders just yet, even though they're 7-3, even though they're playing well. We'll see. But yeah, the Lions will definitely be, in contention to possibly even make a Super Bowl berth for the city of Detroit.
Yeah, a lot of excitement in the Motor City. We'll see how it plays out. Shout out to Dan Campbell and the Lions. Keep roaring on. Speaking of roaring, the Bills have been revving and ascending. We're going to go to Orchard Park, upstate New York in Buffalo. Buffalo has been ascending and playing very well. Josh Allen is in contention for the MVP race. He's my pick. If the season ended today, Josh Allen deserves the MVP. Everybody's talking Lamar. I like what Josh Allen is doing, particularly with less. He's doing more with less talent, but they're both great quarterbacks. So I think the race right now is between Lamar Jackson and Josh Allen. But back to the Bills and Josh Allen. I mean, he's thrown this year for 2,200 yards, 17 touchdowns, only 4 interceptions, QBR of 70.3. So Buffalo, addition by subtraction, right? They had Stephon Diggs last year. He left. That was not the best environment. He wanted to leave. And Buffalo, in my opinion, is a much better team now without Stephon Diggs. I mean, you've got Shakir on the outside. You got Kincaid. Josh Allen also can beat you with his legs. I love what Sean McDermott is doing with Buffalo. Offensively, they're moving the ball down the field. Defensively, the Bills are causing turnovers. I like what Buffalo's doing. They've got a lot of momentum. They got a huge matchup this weekend with the Kansas City Chiefs, the Super Bowl champions, coming into town. That's one of my game picks. We'll get to that later on in the show. But I love what Buffalo is doing. They're ascending. They're rising. They pretty much got the AFC East locked up. Miami's at 3-6 in second place, but Buffalo's going to win that division. If they basically win 4 more games, they're going to have it locked up, sooner than later. So shout out to the Bills and Josh Allen. I love what they're doing. What are your thoughts in terms of Josh Allen contending for MVP based on his numbers and his performance? And what do you think they're going to do moving forward in the playoffs? Because I think they're a threat. I think they can play with anybody, including Kansas City. I think the Bills will at least reach the AFC Championship game. Unless they run into Kansas City in the divisional round, I think Buffalo is a dangerous team. But what are your thoughts moving forward with the Bills and the player Josh Allen?
Absolutely, they're a dangerous team. I mean, I think if you look up dangerous in the dictionary, it shows the Buffalo Bills right there, because they can beat any team on any given day. They can beat anybody, and they've got a tough matchup going against the Chiefs this week. I think, I'm not a betting guy, I think they're favored, but I feel like they could actually be the one that knocks the Chiefs off of that perfect winning record. And you'll have my guys from the 72 Dolphins, doing that toast.
Popping the champagne.
That do every year when another team falls. But Josh Allen, obviously, what I love about him is he's got a ton of personality. He's got leadership potential. He's stayed relatively, healthy, and he's still a triple threat. And so I love that about him. And he leads that team. And so where he goes, that team goes. I feel like Buffalo is able, will be able. I mean, you got the Ravens, you got the Bills, and you got the Chiefs that are right there.
Steelers.
So, and the Steelers. But I mean, those three teams I think are considered the powerhouses right now of the league. So they could definitely be there, like you said, unless they hit one of those teams in a divisional round, just have a bad game.
Right. Well, shout out to the Bills and Josh Allen. We're going to go back to the Yay area, and we're going to tap in. Shout out to 40 Water and the 49ers getting it done against the Buccaneers and pulling that out late. Moody hit that winning field goal after missing several field goals in the game. He redeemed himself. So the 49ers are flying under the radar right now, right? Nobody's really talking about them. But I got news for you. I'm paying attention. And McCaffrey is back. And when McCaffrey is back in the backfield, whether you set him up in play action and he's catching the ball down the field, a bubble screen, or he's getting the ball in the backfield, he's a threat to score every time he touches the football. You got Deebo Samuels, who's healthy. You got the rookie wide receiver, Ricky Pearsall, who I think is balling out. I love what he's doing, particularly with Brandon Ayuk being out for the year. He's been basically a great replacement for Ayuk. Shout out to Brandon, by the way. We hope you get well soon and see you on the field next year. But this year, I think the 49ers, who are currently 5-4, they're in second place in the NFC West. Don't sleep on them Niner boys now. I think there's going to be a goal rush. I think the 49ers are going to gain momentum. I think they're going to win that division. And I think the 49ers, if they go into the NFC playoffs healthy, they can play with anybody. I don't care if they got to go on the road. They can beat Detroit. I think the 49ers can beat the Eagles. I think the 49ers can beat the Commanders. No disrespect to any of those teams. But you got playoff pedigree. You got Kyle Shanahan. And I think Brock Purdy is blossoming before our very eyes. He's maturing every week. He's making good decisions. He's making decisions on the fly. He's throwing the football in tight windows. He's making it happen. So I think the 49ers are still a threat. Nobody's talking about them because they kind of dug themselves a hole early in the year. But don't be surprised if you see the Niners back in the NFC Championship game. You're hearing it here first with your boy Mack B and Sports Hop. Don't sleep on the Yay area, the 49ers. I think they've got the roster. I think they've got the coaching, and they've got the playoff pedigree to make a playoff run, provided they stay healthy. Solomon, what are your thoughts about the Niners? Is there a gold rush down there in Frisco? You think they can make a playoff push and not only win the division, but also compete for a championship again? What are you thinking? Well, I think they can.
Well, I think so. I mean, obviously they have the potential to do it. They're a powerful team. The problem is, like you said, health, right? All the guys that you mentioned, Deebo Samuel, Nick Bosa, McCaffrey. These are all guys who have spent a lot of time off the field with injuries. And so, the problem is, I don't feel like this team has as much power as other teams do to replace it and have the next man up mentality. I feel like they're very dependent on their stars. And so, if they enter the playoffs healthy, they can beat pretty much anybody. That being said, there are a lot of injuries right now. So, good thing these guys have come back. It remains to be seen how they're able to do it. And like you said, put the season back together, get back onto their winning ways. But I don't know, man. A lot of competition out there.
We'll see what happens. Shout out to the Niners and the Yay. E40, one of the biggest Niner fans I know. So Keep rocking and rolling down there. I think the 49ers are going to be a threat. We're going to move on, and we're going to go to the Mile High City. Denver to 303. Shout out to the Broncos. Lost a heartbreaker last week to Kansas City. Kansas City blocked a field goal late. But Bo Nix, rookie quarterback out of Oregon. Denver got the right guy here in the draft. I like what Sean Payton and the Broncos did to draft him. Bo Nix had more collegiate experience than any of the other quarterbacks that went in the first round. I think he's the good fit for Denver. Currently, he's got about 1,900 passing yards, 10 touchdowns, 6 interceptions, a QBR of 54.4. But Bo Nix can not only throw the football down the field, he can beat you with his legs. He's got a lot of deceptive speed. He's got athleticism. He can avoid the rush, particularly when he's under duress. I like his attitude. I like his passion for the game. I think Bo Nix is a future star, and he's in conversation right now. I know it's early, but for Rookie of the Year, him and Jaden Daniels, I think Jaden has the edge right now, but I do like Bo Nix and what he's been able to do for the Broncos, who are sitting at 5-5 in third place in the AFC West. I think Denver's going to end up winning about 9 or 10 games. I think if they get to 10 wins and go 10-7, I think the Broncos can make the playoffs as a wild card. I never thought I'd be saying that last year going into this year, particularly with the disaster last year and then booting Russell Wilson out of town. But shout out to Bo Nix. The Broncos' offense is getting better. Their defense is dominant. Vance Joseph is just killing the game right now. I think overall, they're third in the league overall in total defense. Vance Joseph, who once was a head coach in Denver, there's some circles in the NFL that are looking at this guy as a potential coaching candidate once again. But I hope that Denver can hang on to Vance Joseph. He's made a big difference defensively for the Broncos, but Bo Nix is growing every week before our very eyes. I love what he's doing as a rookie. What are your thoughts on Bo Nix and his development? And also, do you think the Broncos have what it takes to gallop into the playoffs? Because I think they got a shot at a wild card if they can continue to play well.
You do you?
I do.
And I feel like
Here we go.
I just don't.
Boy.
I think they'll probably end up, like 8-9, something like that. I mean, the thing about this team, and listen, taking nothing away from Bo Nix, I feel like in the second quarter of the season, I think he's really shown his ability to be a star in this league. I agree with you. I feel like the Broncos have found their quarterback of the year or for the next, decade. And so, great, because that's been a big struggle in Denver for quite a while. That being said, the team, they win the games they're supposed to win, but they lose the games they're supposed to lose. And that's the way it's been all season. If you look at their remaining games, they're going against the Falcons. They're probably going to lose that game.
You're wrong.
They'll probably beat the Raiders. They'll beat the Browns. They'll beat the Colts, but they'll probably lose to the Chargers. They'll lose to the Bengals, and they'll lose to the Chiefs.
You're wrong.
That's the way I see. So we'll see. I don't see them.
Not the first time.
Yeah. The funny thing is with 17 games now, there's no more 8s and 8s anymore. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So they're either gonna have a winning season or a losing season. I think it's gonna be a losing season.
We shall see how it plays out, but shout out to the Mile High City, Sean Payton, Bo Nix, and the Denver Broncos, who are doing much better than many people, including myself, thought they could do. We're going to move on, and we're going to talk about something that's been slept on, and not amongst the coaches and the teams in the league, but many people that follow the sports world. Nobody really pays much attention to special teams, and special teams plays a huge role. Whether you get that dub or you suffering another L and going down the wrong direction in terms of losing. And I want to talk about Young Ho Koo with the Atlanta Falcons. Shout out to him. Overall, he's been a pretty consistent field goal kicker for the most part. But the last month or so, I noticed, particularly when they played the Chiefs at home about 4 or 5 weeks ago, he missed a crucial kick in that game. He's also missed several kicks in that loss to the Saints. So field goal kicking, special teams can basically be the difference between you moving on or you going home early in the playoffs or not even making the playoffs. So I hope he can turn it around. I like what Arthur Blank did after that game and came up and consoled him, put his arm around him. The owner of the Falcons, by the way, is Arthur Blank, founder of the Home Depot, multi-billionaire. Guy has nothing but class. He's done so much for the city of Atlanta and that Falcons team. So I've interviewed him before. I love his passion for the game. I love what he does as an owner. So shout out to the Falcons and Young Ho Koo. I hope he turns things around. It's a lonely life, right, as a kicker, because you're basically on the sidelines, I would say, for about 75% of the game. And then they call on you to either win the game, tie the game, or maybe extend the lead. And those 3 points may not seem like a lot, but it does make a big difference. Just ask a lot of these head coaches out here who've lost games because of bad kickers. So I'm not calling Young Ho Koo a bad kicker. I'm just saying there is some concern. He's been inconsistent lately. Hopefully he turns things around. And speaking of kickers, I also want to give some love to Jason Bates, the kicker for the Lions. Last year at this time, he was a brick salesman. He was out there slanging bricks and doing his thing. And now he's one of the great stories of the league. Signed on by the Lions. Won the football game for Detroit the other night in Houston with no time left. This guy's kicking 56, 57, 58-yard field goals. And when I look at the replay, that kick could have been good from 62 or 63 yards. So this is a guy, he never rattles under pressure. He just makes it happen. So I love what Bates is doing. He reminds me of the same passion and the endurance of Dan Campbell, the coach. This is just one of those tough guys who just makes it happen no matter what the circumstances are. And that's what I love about that team. But shout out to Jason Bates for getting it done. I also want to focus on Harrison Butker, and Butker can make it happen as well in Kansas City. He's a very consistent field goal kicker. You got people coming into Kansas City in January, particularly in the playoffs, to play the Chiefs. And this guy right here can be the difference between a win and a loss. I'm very confident if the game's on the line and Booker's got to make a winning field goal, I'm confident. If Bates has to make a winning field goal, I'm confident. So special teams plays a huge role. Kansas City always has that locked in and locked and loaded. I love what Harrison Butker can do. And shout out to all the kickers around the league. Keep your head up if you're in a slump. But special teams has been slept on, and I think it's something that we had to show some love, shine a light on these guys. What are your thoughts on these field goal kickers, Solomon, in terms of the pressure that they face? And some of them have a level of consistency, and some of them are up and down. Like a yo-yo, what are you thinking here?
Well, I think, like you said, it is a lonely life. I mean, There's been tons of puns over the years made about kickers and that type of thing. But the reality is, these guys are, for the most part, consistent. You don't get this job without being consistent. You don't get this job without, for the most part, going out there and hitting every extra point or hitting field goals when needed. The problem comes, of course, when the game is on the line and you're asked to go out there. And if you miss it, it doesn't matter what you did the last 4 games. If you miss that kick, now you're considered inconsistent. If you look at Koo, before this game, he had he had made 16 out of 21, which of field goals, which is not bad.
Not bad.
But the fact that he missed 3 from this next game and 17 out of 24, now all of a sudden he's inconsistent. Against the Buccaneers, he was 1 for 2, but before that, 3 for 3. Yeah. Against the Panthers, 3 of 5 against the Buccaneers. He's had some on and off games, but for the most part,
he's had his moments.
Yeah, but the thing is, like you said, people sleep on special teams, or they don't give it the gravitas it deserves. But it is 1/3 of a football team's force, and there are guys who make their careers on special teams. So definitely, as you can see in the Kansas City game, they earn their stripes when needed.
Yeah. And speaking of stripes, a team that's not earning their stripes is the New York Jets. Their season is in the can. We might as well go ahead and say goodbye to the Jets, and their season basically is flushing away down the drain, down the toilet, because you guys defensively can't stop a nosebleed. Aaron Rodgers has destroyed the Jets franchise this year. promising everything to move mountains. It just didn't happen, and it all started, during camp when he's over in Egypt. He's not working out with the team. He's not developing any kind of continuity with the receivers. I mean, you're just over on a staycation overseas doing whatever the hell you're doing, hanging out in a dark cave or consuming mushrooms or whatever it is that you choose to do. I think Rodgers has declined. His play on the field doesn't, live up to the days in Green Bay. I think his buddy Davante Adams, who can still play at an elite level, I think Davante Adams deserves a better opportunity elsewhere. I think he made a mistake leaving Vegas with the Raiders. I know their record is not much better than the Jets, but I do think overall the Raiders have more potential in terms of future organizational moves than the Jets do. I think the Jets are a dumpster fire. Nothing is happening in New York. That's the big apple, but if you mention the Jets or the Giants, that apple has spoiled. It is the rotten apple based on the rotten play that you guys are doing on the field, not showing up, Aaron Rodgers throwing the football, turning the ball over, not making the right reads, not on the same page with his receivers. The Jets are just a mess. A lot of dysfunction out there in New York with the Jets. Their season is done. They're 3-7. It's over. You're not going to run the table. You're not going to make the playoffs. And I just think that, it was a bad move by the Jets to try to get Rodgers and think a 40-year-old quarterback who's just, a different kind of guy. He just rolls differently, especially psychologically, right? I just don't think he was the answer for New York. I think they made a big mistake. What are your thoughts on the Jets? We're not spending a whole lot of time talking about them because they're not worthy of our time, but what are your thoughts on the Jets? It's just a grease fire in New York, right?
And it's ironic that Sam Darnold, who they got rid of, is doing so well right now with the Vikings, right?
Yeah.
So that's crazy. But I'll tell you this. I compare it in a lot of ways to when Tom Brady went, of course, from the Patriots to the Buccaneers, right? When Tom Brady went there, you saw him put in time with the receivers. You saw him on the field with those guys. Those guys were excited for having to throw the ball. And, you saw him put in time with the offensive line because one of the things with an aging quarterback is you're not able to move around. You have to be protected. That's what's going to make it happen for you. You didn't see that with Aaron Rodgers. Now, part of it wasn't his fault. He did get injured in the first year and was away from the team. But you're right. He does seem like his mind is not as much on football as it used to be. Now, talent-wise, if you took the top 10 quarterbacks in the league, you put him behind a solid offensive line, I would put him in the top 3 even today. I think he's just that talented. But, you go to a team like the Jets,
you're wrong.
There's a little bit of disarray, right? And I feel like they just don't have the ability to protect him, to give him the time he needs to do what he needs to do. So that's one issue. I don't necessarily think Davante Adams made a mistake in doing that because I felt like he wasn't getting anywhere with the Raiders anyway. But I also feel like the biggest mistake the Jets made was getting rid of Robert Saleh. I mean,
I agree.
This guy is a firebrand. I mean, he's a player's coach. The players love him. I don't know what happened there, but the fact that they got rid of him so early in the season, I think it just took any chemistry that team had and just flushed it down the toilet. You might as well hit that button again because, I mean, it was just it was just
There
horrible.
we go. Flush number 2.
Yeah, it was horrible because now you've got a team
No pun intended.
that has no identity, right? They don't know who they are. And, they're like, well, we used to be this rough and tumble team. We're going to fight. Now who are we?
Yeah.
So, I think that just killed the whole season for them. So you're right. I wouldn't be surprised if Aaron starts looking at retirement or moving on to another team. But you're right. It's a lost year for the Jets.
Well, they signed him to, I believe it was a 2 or 3 year deal, and the first season was a wash. So he owes the Jets at least another year. But I don't see it happening, with Aaron Rodgers and the Jets. I don't think he's the answer. I just don't think he has the drive and the right attitude and the right approach to be a leader and make it happen for that organization. So the Jets are definitely got a lot of soul searching to do. But you guys are in the basement, and
You think they could be in the Shedeur Sanders sweepstakes?
Interesting. It could happen, possibly. I would feel bad for Shedeur going to New York because I think ownership, there's been a level of dysfunctionality with the Jets for a long time. So it's not just going to a team that needs a quarterback. It's going to the right organization,
Right.
who's going to make the right organizational moves. Management, ownership matters. Team chemistry matters. So I don't think the Jets are the right spot for Shedeur, but that's a good question. We'll see. Now, moving on. You already know what time it is. We're going into week 11 of the NFL season, and I got a 3-pack of picks. I'm so excited. I'm 11-7-3 on the year, right? I got 11 wins, 7 losses, and 3 pushes. So I'm excited this week. I like all of my picks. I'm really, really thinking I could go 3-0. We will see. And we are going to start in the Steel City, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. We got the Ravens coming into town, playing the Steelers. Mike Tomlin, third winningest coach all time in terms of consecutive winning seasons. He's only done it 17 years in a row. The Steelers in this game are coming into the game offensively. They've exploded with Russell Wilson behind center. He's playing at a very high level right now. I like what he's doing. I love how he's stretching the field. You've got Pickens, and now you got Mike Williams, who came over from the Jets. Thank goodness there is a God, right? Mike Williams was happy to get out of New York. He made a key catch in that game against the Commanders. So I like the Steelers here at home. You give me the Steelers as a dog at home with Mike Tomlin as the coach. Their defense is really, really doing well. They're definitely dominating defensively and playing good football. Offensively, they're moving the ball up and down the field. They're putting more points on the board with Russell Wilson. And I like Pittsburgh here. So swallow the 3 points. I think the Steelers win this game outright. I'm going to go out on a limb. I think Pittsburgh wins this game outright over the Ravens. I think that they win a shootout. I think final score is Steelers 31, Ravens 28. So swallow the 3 points and roll with Pittsburgh. We're going to move on. We're going to head up to Orchard Park, New York, upstate Buffalo, New York. Shout out to the Bills and Bills Mafia. We got a huge AFC matchup coming into Buffalo. We got the world champion Kansas City Chiefs rolling into town to play the Bills and Josh Allen. I really think this is going to be an interesting matchup. Kansas City's been playing with house money all year, right? They've won 15 straight games, 15 games in a row, okay? And they're on a 9-game winning streak this year. 7 out of those 9 games was a 1-score contest, meaning they only won the game by a touchdown or less, but they're still winning. But I think that this is going to be a hiccup week for Kansas City. I think Buffalo is primed and ready. I like the Bills here with Josh Allen. I know he can move the football up and down the field. He not only can stretch the field with Shakur, he can also stretch the field with Kincaid. I think he can beat you with his legs. He's playing at an MVP level. So he's got Shakir on the outside. He's got Kincaid. They've got a good running game. I think the Bills are going to come into this game ready, hungry. I think they're going to win this football game. Swallow the 2 points. Buffalo is favored by 2. Swallow the 2 points. Roll with Buffalo here. I think they're the first team to knock off Kansas City. And losing a game for Kansas City can actually be a blessing and a good thing because they can finally get the monkey off their back and not have to worry about all the chatter, right, of everybody chirping about, oh, can you be the first team since the 1973 Dolphins to win every game and go undefeated? It still hasn't been done, and I don't see it happening anytime soon. I do think the Chiefs will be a viable threat, though, to three-peat, which has never been done. But that's another subject for another day. We still got 8 games left to play. Roll with the Bills here. Swallow the 2 points. I think Patrick Mahomes and Kelsey and Hopkins keep the game close. I think it's low scoring. I like Buffalo here, 21-17 over Kansas City. And last but not least, we're going to the Mile High City, the 303. Shout out to D-Town, Denver, Colorado. We got the Atlanta Falcons rolling into town to play the Broncos. Denver coming off that heartbreaking loss to Kansas City. They're favored right now, 2.5 point favorite in Denver as the home team against the Falcons. I like the Broncos here. I think Bo Nix is maturing before our very eyes. He's making big plays. He's not only throwing the football well, he's reading defenses at the line of scrimmage. He's also stretching the field, and he can beat you with his legs. He has deceptive speed on the outside. and athleticism. So I like what Bo Nix is doing as a quarterback. I think the Broncos can run the football on the Falcons. And defensively, Vance Joseph is doing his thing. Denver's defense ranks 3rd in the league overall in total defense. So I like the Broncos here. They're coming in angry. They know they had a game that they basically won. They outplayed Kansas City. If it wasn't for that blocked field goal with no time left, they would have won their 6th game of the year. So Denver's going to be ready. They're going to be hungry. And most importantly, I think they're going to be angry knowing they let one get away last week. So Atlanta on the road with Kirk Cousins. He can be good at times, but he also can be inconsistent. I don't trust him going on the road to Denver. I like the Broncos here. Swallow the 2.5. Roll with Denver. They get it done. So just to recap, I love Buffalo over Kansas City. I think that Pittsburgh upsets the Ravens, and I think Denver will handle their business in the Mile High City. Now, with that being said, you know what time it is. It's time to bring the pains of Solomon. Let it rain. Woo! Episode 48 is in the books. Make sure you hit that subscribe button. Tap in with us on social media. Follow your boy at Mack B _at Sports Hop Media. We appreciate the love. Peace. Thanks for watching Sports Hop. For all the latest news on hip hop and sports, subscribe here and keep it locked. It's your boy Mack B.